All right, let's bring on to the show, Jeff. Let's get some baseball talk in with spring training about to start. San Diego kid himself, Garrett Stubbs. Garrett, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're fantastic. You gave us something to enjoy last season, which we'll certainly get to talking about in a minute. I wanted to start with, you had experience when you were young growing up as a San Diego kid with Tony Gwynn, getting some hitting lessons and experience. I found that fascinating. Can you tell us about what that was and how that impacted you and still does?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was lucky enough to have Tony Gwynn in my backyard at San Diego State when he was a coach there. And I would go down and watch games and watch him coach and do his thing. And my mom and my grandmother are real estate agents in San Diego and try to do charity work wherever they can. And one of the charities was Tony Gwynn's charity. And one of the packages was a hitting lesson with Tony Gwynn. And my grandmother and mom, knowing how much I loved the sport of baseball, jumped on that as much as they could and ended up getting in. I was able to take a hitting lesson with him down at San Diego State. Of course, the way he talks about hitting is unlike any other because of how simple it was, which is kind of where my fundamentals and roots of my swing came from. So an experience of a lifetime, no doubt, especially having him pass later on at kind of an early age. It was pretty cool to be able to have a relationship with him.
In addition to try to soak in what he's trying to teach you, knowing that he's one of the greatest hitters in the game, are you just in awe at that point that Tony Gwynn is giving you a baseball lesson?
Yeah, I don't know if I said more than 15 words. You know, every time he said something for me to either do or talk about a story about him hitting, it was yes sir, no sir, a laugh. Pretty incredible. I think I was, 10, 11 years old, maybe a year older than that, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around that age. So being able to just listen to him talk, it was ears open, mouth shut, and listening to the greatest hitter of all time talk about the way he swung the bat.
All right. So an 11 or 12-year-old gets a lesson from Tony Gwynn. Did you have a hitting coach on your little league team? And did you sit there and say to him, I'm not listening to you because I just Tony Gwynn?
Yeah, I didn't have any. Baseball nowadays is so much different than it was when I was growing up. Hitting coaches didn't even exist, really. It was kind of like you just went out there and played little league and figured it out. So to even have a hitting lesson, let alone it be with Tony Gwynn, was, it's tough to listen to anybody else once Tony starts speaking.
So you end up at USC to play your college ball, where you're named the nation's best catcher one year, and you end up in the Houston system. We've talked to a lot of minor league players. We always enjoy the stories of the struggle to get there, the long bus rides. Anything stick out, one of those long rides, one of those stories that sort of personifies the journey for you to get to the bigs?
Sheesh, man. There's so many of them. And for most guys, it can start even in summer ball in college. I remember having my first 14-hour bus ride from Kenai, Alaska up to Fairbanks, Alaska. Absolutely miserable. And, the coaches who are past players talk about, get used to it if you're going to go play pro ball. And then going into pro ball, I had the luxury of playing in the Texas League, where it was 90 some degrees with 90% humidity every day. And we're on bus rides after the game at 11:30 and getting into our next place from Corpus Christi to, wherever it may be, Midland, Texas, or up in Arkansas. And we're getting in at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., sleeping until 1 or 2 o'clock. And then you're at the field later that day, ready to play another game. But we had a good group of guys, and John Singleton was on our team at the time, and he was quite the character, if you know that name. So the bus rides were
Blue Claws at one point.
That's right. Yeah. So there were plenty of moments throughout those bus rides, some of which I could tell the story, some of which would not be appropriate for other people to know. But, that's part of the minor league experience and kind of prepares you for the big leagues and, getting to know your teammates.
we've had other players on that have talked about this Alaskan League and what it's like to play when you have all those hours of sunlight. What is it about that Alaskan League that makes people go up there?
Well, I tell you what, I did not want to go up there when I was first invited. It was not something that I was interested in. I wanted to play, but I had heard the bus rides. I'd also, Alaska is not the first choice for a San Diego kid to spend his summer. So going up there, ended up being one of the best experiences I ever had. I'm playing baseball at 7:00 at night, of which it looks like it's about 3:00 in the afternoon. And then after the games, I was with one of my buddies, Nigel Newbar from USC. He was on the team with me. So we would go fishing at 2, 3 in the morning and still light out. And we would catch however many fish we could, which was a ton at that time. July in Alaska for salmon fishing is incredible. So then we'd go home, sleep until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon and play again.
So you go through the Astros farm system where, by the way, your younger brother gets drafted into the same time that you get called up on your 26th birthday to play for the Astros. Talk about that experience of having him in the organization with you and then getting that 26th birthday present of, hey, welcome to the majors.
Yeah, so it was my 26th birthday on the 26th. And getting called up to the big leagues, and we're in Nashville. So I couldn't have thought of a better place to be in to celebrate getting called up to the big leagues. We, had drinks, and once again, one of those stories that maybe stays to myself, at least for the time being, but incredible time to be called up. Anybody's call-up story is going to be borderline the best moment of their life. So for it to be on my birthday, for it to be in Nashville, a fun place to hang out and party. And it was an incredible moment. And then, 4 years later, or not 4 years later, it would have been maybe later that year. My brother gets drafted by the Astros. And unfortunately, because of COVID and all the PA negotiations and all that, I never got to play spring training with him. But hopefully in the future we play against each other in the big leagues and possibly with each other sometime.
The Astros, when you moved on to the Phillies, referred to you as the ultimate hype man.
Yeah.
Why?
I love getting the best out of people at all times of the day, whether it be their personality or physically on the field as a player. I kind of think of myself, I'm not getting the most playing time out there. So in order for me to make an impact on guys, I just try to make sure that they're in their best mood going out on the field. And sometimes for some people, it's getting pissed off. Sometimes they play their best when they're pissed off. But yeah, Ultimate Hype Man was created by some of the writers there in Houston. Just kind of noticing the way that I reacted to certain situations in the game from the bench. I love being a teammate of these guys in the big leagues. And the Phillies this year, my teammates were bar none the best I could ask for.
All right. Well, for this World Series team that you just played for, who was the person that you had most fun hyping up?
Jeez, man. Rhys Hoskins was definitely a huge one. Obviously, Harp had some huge moments. Castellano, I could go on a list of each guy and what different things they did throughout the postseason. Schwarber's obviously one of the best locker room guys out there. So any interaction and fun with him is, at the top. But I would say Rhys, watching him hit some of those big homers, especially against Atlanta, he just had some huge games, and knowing that he has kind of been Mr. Philly as far as the rookie coming up through the organization, watching him get into his first postseason and having success, that's as good as it gets. So, watching him bat spike and giving us leads was really fun.
You talk about home runs. Don't sell yourself short. Down your final strike, slider with 2 strikes to hit a walk-off 3-run homer against the Marlins. Talk about that experience for us.
Yeah, I was my own hype man on that one. uh, the full experience of hitting a walk-off home run I'd never had in my life. I've hit walk-off hits, but never any walk-off homers. I'm not a huge homer guy to start with, but just to be in that opportunity to give us a chance to even prolong the game. Schwarber was hitting right after me, so I'm up there just grinding my nuts off, trying to get Schwarber to the plate so he can hit a homer and end this game. It just so happened that I got a good pitch to hit and end up hitting it over the right field fence. And from then it was basically genuine mayhem going on inside me of a blackout type moment where I'm looking at the dugout and I'm seeing all those guys, probably looking at me like, what the, did he just do that? I don't think anybody in the stands was expecting that. In the dugout, I promise you I wasn't either, but genuine mayhem going on inside. And it was probably up there it probably is the best personal moment for me in my career. Pretty incredible moment.
You had a pretty cold Gatorade bath afterwards. I know you don't normally watch back your home runs, but have you listened back to any of the amazing calls or watched that one back with the reaction that you had?
Yeah, that one was tough not to watch back. Like you said, watching back my other homers and whatnot, not exactly something that I do all the time. But that one was definitely one that will stick around, I hope, for years to come for Philadelphia. It was a time in the season where we weren't exactly at our best. And playing a Marlins team that is, a lot of the time underestimated. It's a very good ball club over there, especially pitching staff. But for us to win that game at that time of the season, I think was a propeller for us forward going on and kind of giving us confidence that it doesn't matter who's up at the plate, 1 through 9, we're always able to have a chance to win a ball game.
As we watched you guys go through the season 1 through 25, it just looked like you guys were having a great time together. Like, when you think of baseball, you think of a game, even though it is a profession, and you guys look like you were playing a game. What was it about that team that made it, at least from the outside, look like you guys were having so much fun?
Yeah, there's just incredible personalities going on in that locker room. And, I can't speak for years prior to last year. I know that maybe those teams weren't exactly the same vibe that we had this year, but we had, some really good signings this year. And the personalities that got into that locker room, starting with Schwarber, definitely one of the guys that leads the culture in the locker room. And I think everybody just meshed well and understood that everyone just be yourself, whatever that may be yourself. And whatever that is, go out there, do that. And it'll probably bring the best out in you as a player out on the field. And we all enjoyed watching everybody enjoy their individual successful moments, which ended up turning into huge team moments. And we had success with it. And obviously early on, there wasn't as much success, but I think that even the message from the players in the locker room, it never wavered as far as the confidence that we had in ourselves and each other. We just needed that one moment to be able to start moving forward and winning ball games. So the culture couldn't be any better. It's going to be the same type of vibe this year. I know that everyone loves it, whether they're a Philly fan or not. I heard from people, friends and family and people I had never even met before that are Phillies fans or not Philly fans, talk about how much fun they had watching us as a team. And I'm looking forward to bringing that same exact vibe back to the 2023 season.
As a Phillies fan and watching this team, one of the memorable moments that we all had was when Rhys Hoskins hits that home run and spikes that bat. What was that like in the dugout when he did that?
I mean, I could scream right now, just kind of bringing me back to that moment. And don't forget the bat spike being invented in Philadelphia. That's going to be a Philadelphia staple from here on out. And watching him go up in that moment, like I said earlier, him coming up through the system as a rookie, having a very successful rookie season and continuing to have that success, but not being able to get to that postseason to, really play on one of the biggest stages in baseball. finally watching him get to be on that stage and having that success, it was, it's really as good as it gets, being a homegrown guy and finally bringing your team and your city that you came up with that moment. I'm sure that he kind of had those same kind of feelings that I had during the walk-off and Harp had during his homer against the Padres. It's easy to feed off the Philadelphia fans when you have big moments like that.
One of the players that you get to watch up close and work with closely is JT Realmuto. Talk about what you've learned, not only the way he prepares, both how he studies and plays the game, but what he does to prepare his body for that position.
He's a freak, man. He is an absolute freak. I'm sure when his career is over, hopefully in a long, long time, people are going to look back at what he's done as a player and talk about whether he's the greatest catcher of all time. And that's an incredible conversation to be a part of. He's already had such success at the position and proved that he can do things that quite simply every other player cannot do. And one of them being, like you're talking about, his body and being able to catch as many games as he can. But it's not even just the number of games that he catches. It's the success that he can have while doing that is just incredible for him to be able to hit the way he does, still have the pop times and accuracy the way he does, throwing down a second, all the meanwhile having the personality to lead a pitching staff. He's the best, in my opinion, to possibly ever do it. And I know he's got a lot more years to go. So I'm just excited to be able to work with him every single day while he goes out there and proves to be one of the best of all time.
Well, Garrett, before you head back to Philadelphia for this season, you get to have another experience that we'd all wish for, which is playing in the World Baseball Classic. What's that like for you, playing in the World Baseball Classic and representing Israel?
So I've heard from years past the energy that's flowing through those stadiums during the World Baseball Classic is unlike any other. And I believe it when people, especially Latin American countries, get behind their team and are able to watch the players that came off of their country's land go out there and have success and play. There's no Olympics for baseball. So, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, baseball is borderline the biggest sport in those countries. So these are really fun times for countries like that. And I know Israel too. They've had success in the past, of which I haven't been a part of, but watching them play in years prior for the World Baseball Classic and now getting the opportunity to join them in that success is going to be a lot of fun. We got our work cut out for us with Venezuela, Dominican, and Puerto Rico and Nicaragua all in the same bracket, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Watching Ian Kinsler play, incredible player. Brad Osmus is going to be one of the bench coaches, also an incredible player. Actually a guy that I, modeled myself after, knowing that he wasn't exactly the biggest guy in the room, but also a catcher, leader on the field, and successful. So it'll be a lot of fun to pick those guys' brain. Jock Peterson and Kevin Pillar are playing some pretty big names in baseball. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see the fans, both from Israel and the other teams, and what they bring to the stadiums. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I know people around the world will really enjoy watching all these countries fight for that championship.
You talk about the fans. Israel has really utilized this WBC to kind of grow the sport over in Israel, to build fields off of it. I've seen you talk about Jewish people stopping you in the stands and on the street and kind of recognizing it. What's it mean for you to be a role model for them, for people who may be interested in baseball or who may want to see you and learn how to play it over in Israel or here, to be that guy?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. The Jewish community isn't exactly known for their athletes.
Yep.
In any sport.
I'm one of none of them.
There you go. Yeah. So baseball seems to be the one sport where we, at least do have a number of Jewish players out there at the highest level in the major leagues. I don't know about basketball and football being much of a strong Jewish sport. So we've got baseball, and there's a lot of players around the league. Alex Bregman's one that I wish he was playing for Team Israel this year. I'm sure he'd have a lot of fun doing it. I know Harrison Bader was going to be one that was going to join and play, but ended up not being able to. But it's cool, especially in Philadelphia, a very Jewish community, being able to walk out on the field and Jewish people, whether it be kids, parents, or both, kind of look at me as a role model in the Jewish community to be able to show them that, hey man, keep working hard, especially somebody like me who's undersized and doesn't exactly have the talent that a Bryce Harper or a JT Realmuto has. But, I worked my butt off my whole life to be able to be in a position like this. So I hope there are kids, Jewish or not, that do look out there and understand that if you put the work in and are disciplined in the work that you are putting in, anything's possible. So it is fun to be able to have those conversations with those young players. Cause I remember being one in the stands and, even just a wave from a big leaguer at that time was, one of the coolest moments.
One of your front office guys, Sam Fold, was involved in Team Israel before. Have you had a chance to talk to him about it and what the experience is like?
Yeah, no, I did, because I had to ask, if they were okay with me going and playing in the WBC. And as soon as the conversation even started, both Dave Dombrowski and Sam Fold were jumped all over it. We're absolutely go do it. It's an experience of a lifetime. Fold had done it prior. And so he said, absolutely, it's something that you'll always remember. And he said that when he played, it was, besides different moments in his big league career, was something that he is so happy that he did, and will be one of the memories that he holds with him.
All right. So I got to ask, there's going to be some changes this year, rule changes. As a catcher, is it helpful or does it not matter to you that they have the pitch clock now?
We're going to find out. Back in AA, they had a pitch clock. And I don't know if the timing was the same when we did it in AA, but I wasn't exactly a huge fan of it at that time. But things change, whether it be other rules or the pitch clock. Things in the sport will evolve over time. There will be something 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now that's different than the way it is now. So we're going to have to adapt. I'm hoping that all the players stay healthy during these changes with, the bigger bases, the game being sped up. We've been playing this game one way for our whole lives. So it is going to be an adjustment for a lot of players. And I also hope that the league has some leeway with us too, because there's going to need to be a grace period of players getting used to doing this. Nobody wants to get injured out there. And quite frankly, when the game is getting sped up, a lot of players use that time to take a breath and also think about what pitch they're going to throw. So I hope the quality of the game stays the same. I hope the quality of the player stays the same, because we've been playing a very, very good brand of baseball this last 10 years. And I think people have really enjoyed all the incredible players. I mean, you could go around the league and talk about generational players on multiple teams. So I hope it all works out, and I hope players can make adjustments, and I hope the league, shows some grace while we are making those adjustments.
You talk about the quality of the game, the quality of the game that we got to see here in Philadelphia during the World Series run, during the playoffs, the atmosphere that you got to play in front of. I'm just wondering if you could talk to people about just what that was like. Jeff was in the crowd for some of those games. I'm watching it come through the TV. What's it like for a player to be in the middle of that moment?
Whoa. It's unlike any other, humble brag here. That was my third World Series that I had gotten to be a part of as a player. And I have never been to or been at our home park when I was with Houston, where the fans were as engaged as they were in Philadelphia. It is an atmosphere unlike any other, I think, in sports. We went to a couple Eagles games this year. We ended up getting to go to a Monday night football game as players. Also an incredible atmosphere. The World Series is unlike any other stage in any sport. You got 7 games of guys going after it, traveling back and forth. And every time we got to play in Philly, whether it was in the World Series or NLCS or DS or wild card, we didn't get to play in Philly, but those other series, going back to Philadelphia was the most exciting part of every single one of those series, because we knew what those fans were going to bring to the stage. There wasn't a night that they didn't bring it, with noise, with being engaged. I can only imagine what it was like to be in that opposing dugout as a player. I can't imagine it was very fun listening to Philadelphia fans absolutely give it to you for 3.5 hours during a playoff game.
And as you had in your suit, Dancing on My Own, what was it like to see that people were singing it in the stands? And I was on a subway car and everybody was singing it there. What was it like to have this song adopted because you guys were playing it? And by the way, who's responsible for that?
It was awesome to see the engagement from the fans and how much they pay attention. You can have a fan base that comes out during a playoff game. Of course, it's the playoffs. There's going to be people there, but how engaged they were and how much they paid attention throughout the year to players, to things like our win song. I think it got popular because one of the reporters, Alex, she tweeted out me going to the iPad to change one of the songs. And all of a sudden I looked down at my Spotify and there's 6,000 people following my Spotify playlist. A couple of days goes by and there's 12,000, a couple more days and 15 and 20. And it was pretty cool to see the whole city rally around our win song, walking off the field after those wins and hearing it playing throughout the stadium and the whole stadium singing along with it. I don't think anybody who was at those games will ever forget that. The 2022 season with the Philadelphia Phillies, I think as far as personality goes and the memories that were made during the regular season and the postseason, although we didn't win the last game, I think people will always remember that season. People say nobody ever remembers the second place team, but in this scenario, I think all Philly fans will remember that moment.
I don't think there's any better place to leave it with Garrett Stubbs as we get ready for the 2023 season and he heads to spring training. Garrett, we hope to be able to keep in touch with you. This was awesome. Thanks so much for the time.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Good luck with the World Baseball Classic.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.